Good morning. This is Bill from Auto House of Naples on a marginally better Florida Monday, just marginally. The humidity is still there, but it's not quite floating in the air in the way that makes you miserable. It's enough to get you damp, but that's about it. You take what little victories you can get this time of year. I know I spend a lot of time crying about the weather, but there it is. What are you going to do? It's one of the things that I cry about, and I'm just going to keep doing it. What else can I tell you? There's no birds today that I've seen, thank God. I have to say that when I first started doing videos here, I thought they were going to be all over the place, swooping down. I mean, there's a couple flying around over there, but I think they're just a bit overwhelmed. Also, no sign of the goats. They haven't come out. They haven't growled at me. There's been no weirdness with them. So for the most part, I'm feeling pretty chipper, bird-free, goat-free, and otherwise devoid of any animal menace floating around. I can only imagine what it's like to randomly find one of these videos and start listening to one. What the hell is this guy talking about with goats and birds and such? But, what are you going to do? Got to be me. Anyway, what do I have today? I have this 1990 Lincoln Town Car. This is a car that is very near and dear to my heart. Not exactly this particular one, although it is, but the 1990 Town Car in general, because it was one of the few cars in life, certainly before I got into the business, that I actually owned. I was in the business when I had it, but not in the same way as I am now. I was, in my late 20s. I had just come back from college. I was selling crap on eBay, and I needed a big car. I had a 123 diesel wagon that I loved, but times were tough and the car seemed a bit valuable, so I sold it and I needed to replace it. This is in the late 90s, and lo and behold, the Lincoln dealer had a 1990 Cartier at a really good price, and I couldn't turn it down. Didn't really know much beyond what it was at the time in terms of why it was a good car, so I just bought it and I fell in love with it. I drove it for years, and it really sealed in my absolute amorous love for these types of cars. And this one, when it came up a few weeks ago from a collection, I could not turn it down. I just couldn't. I had to grab it. And I'm so glad that I did, because it's just been a treat to drive. This is the F-36 body town car. Frankly, it really had a very strong chance of not existing at all. You have to go back to the early 1980s, a little bit after the Panther Platform had come out. Ford was the sort of the last domestic manufacturer to stop, to downsize their cars. They were the last ones. Cadillac was already well underway, producing what would become much smaller cars in the mid-'80s. But Ford came up with this Panther Platform. They came up with the first town car, believe it or not, in 1981. It was a name that had been used widely as a trim package on Continentals and other cars for years, but nothing was named the town car specifically until 1981. So truly, this is just the second generation town car. But it was only supposed to run for a couple of years. They were going to change it to some Continental-based, Sable-based front-wheel drive thing. They thought gas was going to be like $2.50 or more a gallon, which I guess was more money back then, and that nobody would want these things. But then the unthinkable happened, and all of a sudden gas started stabilizing, going down. Town car sales started going up. Ford, their top brass, had no interest in continuing the town car. They were really negative about it. But one guy, Lenwick was his name, Jeff Lenwick. Anyway, he was a product planner for Ford, and he wanted to keep the town car going. So he fought long and hard to do it. And Ford had bought one of these new downsized Cadillacs. Somehow they got one, a few months before it debuted to the public. Lenwick goes to drive it, gets in the thing, takes it around, and gets this little sly grin because he knows Lincoln has a chance now to get the town car going. And sure enough, Ford then did approve development of this second-gen town car. Another thing that sort of made this car exist was the United States government demanding outstanding passive restraint systems, basically airbags. They didn't have to be airbags, but that was kind of the easiest solution. And rather than just redesign the dash on the old square-bodied town car, which was an option, they were going to just keep going with that thing with a slightly more modern look, Cadillac style. They said, what the hell, we're just going to come up with an all-new design, and they let this guy Lenuick do his thing. And it really did work out extraordinarily well. But what a task. So, you know, the town car, the square body thing, is selling like absolute hotcakes. People love them. They have a fiercely loyal buyer. They don't want any changes at all. They're older and conservative and mean-spirited like me. And he had to come up with a car that would satiate them while still bringing Lincoln into a more modern era of the way cars looked and drove and behaved. And to do that is an absolute study in how Detroit got its footing back. They developed this car for about $650 million. A big part of the savings was using the old Panther platform, the old engine. They just had to make it work with the new body. And they were running out of manpower at the time. You have to understand, Detroit in the 80s was going very, very badly. I mean, you know, Chrysler was almost out of business. It just, you know, redeemed itself with the Iacocca thing. Ford was losing billions of dollars in the early 1980s. They were cutting manpower left and right. And all of a sudden, these guys were left without much of a team to put the car together. So this became one of the first cars that became farmed out, more international, if you will. One of the product chiefs figured out there was a little company in England called International Automotive Design, and they were tooled up and ready to do the engineering on this car to make the new body fit with the old frame, something Ford didn't have ready to go in Michigan, believe it or not. Also, they were unhappy with their current body supplier, so they went to a company called, Ogahari Metal Works, a Japanese company that had been doing some stuff on the Continental, and they hired them and their new plant just outside Wixom, where these cars were being built, to come up with the stampings, all the body work for the car. So it created a few problems because the prototypes were in England. You know, they had to sort of get them all together of the engineering and put it all together. But they did, and they came out with this car in record time. The design was freezed in '86, and the car came out in late '89, just a few years later. And it really all did become a study in how to get a car right in a very short amount of time, something that Detroit had not been doing very well before that. So very, very important car for Ford in a way. And man, did it work for them. The opportunity to build a car that Cadillac wasn't really put Lincoln back on the map. People defected from the Cadillac dealerships in droves. This was the longest and biggest, most roomy car being offered. The Brougham was there, but it just didn't have the same sort of engineering going on at the time. So Town Car was able to steal the day, and it sure did. And they sold a ton of them, an absolute ton of them, particularly coming out with this rather handsome design, which we're going to get into now. So what they had to do was retain a lot of the stuff that people liked about town cars. That would be these sharp 90-degree front and rear ends, the opera windows in the back, the full frame quality of the car. You know, they detuned the chrome a little bit, but not enough to matter. Now, modern-wise, they did wrap around the headlamps, very, very nice. Gave it a little bit of a European flair with those headlamps and some other stuff, but retained much of what made American cars special. And they did keep it roomy. In fact, it was a little bit longer and a little bit more roomy than the prior town car. And let's just get into this thing. I also love the rims on this car. All right, so very old school wise, you can flip up this little cover and it will hold itself in place. Insert your trunk key. There is also a keyless entry system, but I didn't memorize the number. And up comes the trunk, and now you have this enormous trunk. You could fit 4 or 8, 6 sets of golf clubs in here. I'm not going to get into the stupid body thing. Yes, you could fit bodies in the back, but that really doesn't happen all too often. You're also able to put, all kinds of things that you needed here, which was what made them so popular with livery drivers and limousine companies. You could fit 6 people inside the car and all their luggage in the back, and that was pretty special stuff. This little sticker here, that is the code for the door, which is the keyless entry thing. So if you ever lose it, it's there for you. This switch over here would also shut off the rear airbag system, which was standard on this. Not SRS, but shocks. You know, the air suspension in the rear came standard on this car and was part of what helped to upgrade it from prior years in terms of its ride and comfort. There you see you got the original floor mats in there. Very nice stuff. Interesting to see them still with the car. And just absolute tons of room. Also had one of these great electric trunk suck downs. Look at that. Love it. Get that thing nice and level. God, does this car bring back memories. I absolutely loved my 1990. All right, so a couple of years later, they would come out with that 4.6 modular V8. But this one in 90 still had the kind of the Mustang GT-ish 5-liter, which is truly 4.9. The overhead valve, very, very peppy 5-liter V8 that just works fantastic in this car. Love the frying pan intake manifold. Very smooth. In this trim, this has the optional dual exhaust, so it went up to 160. The standard trim had 150. Not as much as the GT, which was over 200 based on cam, heads, and exhaust, but still more than enough to motivate this car down the road with pep. And a very smooth, very modern engine that was frankly a little bit ahead of what Cadillac was offering at the time. I guess they did have the 5-liter, the Chevy engine and the Bromes at the time, but I do suspect this was smoother and better developed engine that Ford had in the town cars. Don't tell any of my GM friends that I said that. They'll kill me. In this low mileage example, it's incredible under here in terms of preservation. You still have this bag over the alternator. Over the distributor. Those are long gone in a lot of these cars. All the decals are in nice shape. You can just see it's absolutely mint under there. And when you see the service records we got with this car, you can understand the life it's led is very, very soft. But anyway, everything nice and proper. Also did have variable steering in this car. An early thing for that, where it lightened the steering feel at low speeds and heavied it up a bit as the car would go down the road. And that did take away some of the traditional American car feel and made it feel a little bit more European to more sophisticated buyers. I slammed that a little harder than I would have liked. There you see those very attractive 15-inch wheels, BBS style, if you will, lace, very cool, really set off the car. This car was never offered with a padded roof. That was one of the big compromises that they made to modernize the car, which, you know, again, offended some of their buyers, but not enough. They also got rid of the little vent windows in the front, but they did keep the opera windows in the back and kept the script on those windows to denote what model it was. This is the Signature series. There was a base model which became an executive, then the upgraded version was a Signature, and then that went on to a Cartier, which had most of the available options and some special paint and such. I had a Cartier. It was a nice special. Being optional, this car had the two-tone look with the gray on the bottom, the Arctic white paint up top. You see that 90-degree straight down taillight effect. That was something that they had to keep, along with the stately roof that, you know, again, denoted part of American car history, if you will, the way these cars are supposed to look. They kept just enough styling cues on this car to keep them appealing to the people who would have traditionally bought them. Well, theoretically also appealing to some new people. Also the optional leather in this. This is called currant red leather. Absolutely gorgeous in this car. Everywhere you look, you see little traditional Lincoln bits, like their logo, the chrome pull handles. It's got ashtrays because people smoked back then. You got these great big leathery looking map pockets. Nice place to put some sort of 9mm revolver, that sort of thing. Lovely soft leather. Your Canadians are going to be incredibly happy back there. No issues at all with legroom or ass feel. It's going to be fantastic. With oh, look at that, we got our map light on up here. We got both map lights. It's got a JBL system, so it's got nice cartoons coming out the package shelf there. The Lincoln crest is stitched into the leather. It's, you know, exactly what it should be for a car of this price point and this level of luxury. And in 1990, they had a pretty good system going where everything was bolted together nice, tight, and it's held up very, very well over the years. So kudos to the engineers on that one. You can also see the way the doors go into the roof now, and that was another part of what made this car more aerodynamic and more modern. They sunk in the door handles, Mercedes style, make that a little bit more aerodynamic, and we're able to trim quite a bit of the wind resistance off this car. Also like the town car badging on the fenders. And one of my favorite thing on these cars is the big cornering lights. Right here, when you put on your left signal, this thing lights up like you wouldn't believe, and in the dark will light up the whole left side of the car, making it easy to see what you're about to run over. Nice stuff. Also, as a 90, they later on made those mirrors color coordinated with the car and bigger. I do like the early chrome mirrors on this car. I think it makes it look more classic. And of course, there's that chrome, ensconced key code for you to get into your car without having the key in your hand. Okay, again, look at this leather in this car, the optional, with all this padded upholstery stuff. It is incredible. Very, very comfortable to sit in. Terrific that it had that option. And very smooth, very nice. You can see the preservation of this leather on this particular example is amazing. It hasn't been fixed or touched up, anything like that. Exactly the way that it came. Very nice stuff. Door panel, again, nice mixture of new Ford in 1990 and traditional. They added these little pockets here to the side. Nice spot to put a revolver or a handgun or a switchblade, brass knuckles, whatever it is you need on your trips around town. You've got your power seat controls here on the door panel, your door locks, your windows, your mirrors. It's got the badge for the JBL audio system. All stuff that it really did have to be a luxury car. And man, was it. I mean, you could pull up with this thing to the golf course or the strip club or the Asian massage and be very, very, arrived. Let's fire it up. All right, there's that big, I guess it's not that big, but that nice 5-liter firing to life. Let's get a little bit of AC going. It is feeling a little more humid today. Roll my seat back. Let me turn off the auto lamps. The dimming isn't there. Okay, so here you go. Here is a vacuum fluorescent display that these cars came with. Also, my 90 had it, and I loved it. And most people did love it. It was a very popular option, so much so that they just made it standard a couple years later, because barely anyone picked the factory analog dash. Because it has an airbag now, part of the reason this car even exists. You can see a nice leather trimmed steering wheel. Still has controls for the cruise control on there, but now does have an airbag. You've got auto dimming headlamps, lovely stuff. You've got auto on headlamps with nice big chrome chunky knobs. You've got a driver information system here. You can go through your different messages, your average economy, your instant economy, your trip, distance to empty. That was always my favorite. I liked that. Fuel remaining, outside temp. Where are we at? Outside 80. That isn't too bad, I'm telling you, for this time of year. And there you see just 49,000 miles on the clock. Nice stuff. Also a lovely big chrome column shifter there. And obviously a tilt wheel. And unlike earlier Fords, when you tilt this wheel, the whole column moves at least up to the instrument cluster, so it's not quite as weird feeling as the ones that just tilt the wheel itself. You got the slider style climate control. You've got your date and time, little clock thing up. This became digital later on, but this is what it had in 90. Fuel door release and rear defrost there. Ford JBL AM/FM CD cassette. You got a lighter here that doesn't appear to have been used. You got an ashtray. Nice stuff, little play. I don't remember what I put in there, probably my phone, but anyway, that was all very nice. This one does have the optional passenger side airbag, nice feature, while at the same time retaining quite a large glove compartment. Neat stuff. You also have an auto dimming mirror here with your controls there. Do have the window sticker for this car, which is fascinating. Love that this is still with it. You can see this has the option on leather. The dual exhaust that bumped it up a few more horsepower. It has the optional anti-lock brakes, the JBL audio system, and just a fantastically well-equipped car. And 33 grand back in 1990 was nothing to sneeze at. That was yeah, that was real money. You also have your original book set, lovely, and the original Dearborn bag, and then this stack of service records. Every record since new with the car, which is just fantastic to see, along with a stack of North Carolina inspection reports. So the full history of this car is entirely documented. Even in here, I have the original purchase order for the car when they bought it, and in that little leather bag is an original Lincoln pen. So basically everything that the car ever came with is still here with it, which is all very nice stuff for collectability. And speaking of which, you know, another 10 or 15 years from now, when you go to Mecum and Barrett-Jackson and that sort of thing, I have a feeling these cars are going to command some real money. You know, well, I'll tell you why. Okay, here's my theory. I know a lot of people laugh at that because they made a bunch of them, and you know, there was no shortage, although a lot of them got used up and thrown away, so the remaining pool isn't that large. Secondary to that, it was a great car. They could go for hundreds of thousands of miles with minimum fuss. It was a well-built car. It was an important car, and in many ways, it was one of the last true American-style full-frame, floaty V8 powered classics. And you know, that is going to go a long way towards preserving its place in history. There you see when I put the car in drive, the doors lock. I was arguing with someone on Reddit the other day. It's kind of a snowflake wasteland, that place. And he was arguing that the doors locked in America because we all had all this crime. I think, yeah, okay, that may be true, but I think the primary reason that companies did that was for safety. Locked doors do fare a lot better in rollover crashes. They don't come open as much as doors that aren't locked, so... Oh, God, the idea that people have about America is just hilarious. I don't wait for the gates to open. I do love that vacuum fluorescent display. I like the bar graph gauges that it has, the water temp and the fuel level. Very nice stuff. I do like the information center. I tell you what, you know, the way this car came together, whether it was just luck or really fantastic planning or a mixture of both, I really think Ford hit a pinnacle at the town car in this design. The generation that came after it is obviously a fantastic car, but what I like about this one is it feels like it was built more for the consumer than the next generation, which I think was built more for the livery companies and fleet services. Still a great car in every way, but this one just has more panache, I think, in terms of design, in terms of accoutrements, inside and out. It feels sort of more like an American Rolls-Royce. There's that woman in the hat with her stick. And she's getting very good at picking stuff up with that thing. You float down the road in a lovely, lovely way. You know, the suspension just soaks up the bumps. That Panther platform is fantastic. The steering is actually quite responsive, a big improvement on the earlier town cars. And the engine response is terrific. I mean, this thing is just made to eat up the highway. You just want to get on I-75 and flow. They cut down wind noise with the aerodynamic design. They cut down interior noise with the build quality. And I think they just made an absolutely incredible product. I have to say that if I had to own a car today, something to drive every day, the second-gen town car would be very high on the list. You're not going to get much more comfortable piece than this. Now let's hammer it. It doesn't do very much at all. I don't think this car has been driven very hard in the past. Probably needs a good Italian tune-up. 0 to 60 is about 11 seconds. Quarter mile is about 17. You know, again, it's got 160 horse motivating a nearly 5,000-pound car down the road, and it's geared for the highway to give you the most fuel economy. So, you know, maybe you can get a little chirp as you're leaving the light, but it's not meant for stoplight to stoplight racing. There's our passing gear. It's fine. Again, not the point of this car to drive like you would in a hot rod. It's much more of a boulevard cruiser. Kind of tracks down the road nice and smooth. You feel like you've got white walls paving the way. You've got that Lincoln hood ornament at the front. Ice cold air from the air conditioning. I have no sweat anymore. This is just lovely. God, this is lovely. It really, really is. I don't care what anyone says about town cars. I still say they're the greatest machines ever made, or at least one of them. And I'm a GM guy to the core. I don't really like Fords all that much, but I have to admit, they really hit a home run with these cars. And man, did they take it to Cadillac. They robbed a ton of Cadillac buyers, got them away from those little front-wheel drive sedan DeVilles and brought them over to Lincoln. So, gotta hand it to them on that one. All right, well, what's the point of waiting for the light to turn? The hell with it. Anyway, there it is, 1990 Lincoln Town Car, one owner, 49,000 miles, window sticker, keys, service records, fantastic colors, great options. This car is an absolute champion. What a terrific Sunday driver, something fun to play with on the weekends. If you want to commit a crime against the world, you could daily drive it and use it up, but God, I wouldn't do that. I think this would just be a lovely collector car to have. There we go. Up the light, it's pretty good. Yeah. Anyway, it'd be a lovely car to have in the garage, take out on weekends, take to the golf course, look like old money. Nice way to live. So anyway, if you have an interest in this one, it's available at Auto House of Naples, 239-263-8500, or on the web at what the hell is it? AutohouseNaples.com. I guess that's pretty straightforward. Thank you for having a look today. Really appreciate it. Try to have something fun coming up tomorrow or the next day. Maybe get into something European. Get away from all the Luxo Barge stuff we've been doing. But God, it's been a treat. Been a treat for me. Thanks very much, and we'll see you at the next one.